Shafiq had entered into a contract for the sale of his land in Jamanta to his friend Hakim. A few days later, Shafiq and Hakim had a quarrel over some personal matters.
Consequently, Shafiq refused to transfer the land to Hakim. In order to prevent the transfer, Shafiq had performed development company known as Pembinaan Jaya Sdn Bhd, the company.
Shafiq then transferred the land to the company that he had formed. Hakim now wishes to seek a court order to compel Shafiq and the company to transfer the land to him.
Question A. The concept of separate legal entity. As we know, separate legal entity is the main characteristic of a registered company. So, what is separate legal entity? Separate legal entity, as in Section 20, Clause 1, Clause A of the Companies Act 2016, provides that a company incorporated under this Act is a body corporate and shall have legal personality separate from its member. This means a company exists separately with its owner and distinct from its member. It's like there is a veil that is dropped to separate the companies from its members. The effect of separate legal entity are the company may enter into a contract, make deals, take legal action in court, and has the ability to own properties under its own name.
As company existence does not depend on the identity of its members, the members cannot take any legal action on behalf of the company. As in Section 192, Subsection 1 of Companies Act 2016 states that a member shall not be liable for an obligation of the company by the reason only of being a member of the company. So, the member cannot be made liable for the liabilities and debts of the company and need to be settled by its own.
The main case in this topic is Solomon and Solomon and Company Limited. The case is about Solomon, who is a successful sole proprietor of a shoe business, which then formed a company named Solomon and Company Limited. He sold his business to the company and received debentures, shares, and cash in consideration of the sale. Later then, the company faced financial problem and had to be dissolved. But the amount of assets dissolved were not sufficient enough to cover and to pay all the company's debts. As Solomon ranked in priority over the company's unsecured creditors, he received his portion but left the unsecured creditors unpaid. An action had been brought to prevent Solomon, who was the owner of the company, to receive any payment, and he was liable for the company's debts. But the court held that Solomon and the company were two separate persons in law. Solomon was not liable for the company's debts. As a result, Solomon's debts were settled as he was a secured creditor of the company, while the other creditors got nothing as there was no company's assets left for them.
Question B. Whether the court will leave the corporate will pertaining to the transaction on the land. Whether the court will leave the corporate will pertaining to the transaction on the land. By virtue of Section 192, Subsection 1 of Companies Act 2016 provides that a member shall not be liable for an obligation of the company by reason only of being a member of the company. The company is liable for its debt. In addition, according to Section 20, Subsection 1, Subsection A of Companies Act 2016, a company incorporated under this Act is a body corporate and shall have legal personality separate from that of its members. Generally, Where a company has been formed and registered, the corporate veil will drop to separate the company from its members and officers, which will protect them from being sued or being made be liable for any debts and liabilities of the company. But there are the situations where the veil may be lifted by the court, either under statutory exception or judicial exception. The grounds for judicial lifting the veil are 1. Evade legal obligation. 2. Hide true fact. 3. Agent. 4. Attribution. And 5. Group of company.
In the case of Jones and Liebman had made a contract to sell a house to Jones. Later, he changed his mind and refused to carry out the contract. In order to break the contract, Liebman transferred the house to a company named Alamat Limited that was wholly owned and controlled by him. He then offered to pay damages to Jones as remedies for the breach of contract. But Jones was not prepared to accept the damages and sued instead for a specific performance. Liebman resisted the claims on the ground that the house belonged to the company, relying on the doctrine of separate legal entity, argued that the specific performance could not be ordered against the company. The court viewed the whole situation as an attempt to manipulate the doctrine for personal gain, in this case, as a shield against the awards of specific performance. The company was only front to conceal the real ownership of the house. Lifting the corporate veil, Liebman and the company were regarded as the same entity. Both Liebman and the company were liable and ordered to transfer the house to Jones.
The other case under this contract is the case of Guilford Motor Company and Horn. Horn was a former managing director of the Guilford Motor Company, made an agreement not to solicit the company's customer after he left. But after leaving, he set up the company's name J.M. Horn and Company Limited. Through the new company, he solicited the customer of Guilford Motor Company. The company sued Horn for breach of contract, but Horn argued that J.M. Horn and Company Limited was not a party to the agreement. The court held that the new company was set up by Horn to evade contractual obligation for the purpose to solicit customers of Guilford Motor Company. So, the court lifted the corporate veil. Horn and the new company were treated as a single entity, which made Horn liable for the act.
Shafiq had made a contract to sell his land in Jengka to Hakim. But then, they had a quarrel over some personal matters. Shafiq later refused to transfer the land to Hakim and decided to transfer the land to a development company named Pembinaan Jaya Sendirian Berhad that was formed by him to evade legal obligations. Hakim seek the court order to compel Shafiq and the company to transfer the land to him as agreed in the contract. Applying to this situation, Shafiq is using the company to evade the legal obligations in order to conceal the true ownership of the land. This is against the real purpose of providing the corporate veil. The court will not allow the separation of legal entity to be used by Shafiq to avoid his contractual obligation owed to Hakim. So, the court will lift the corporate veil. Shafiq and the company were regarded as the same entity, which makes Shafiq and company liable to transfer the land to Hakim. In conclusion, Hakim has the right over the land, and Shafiq cannot use the company as a shield against the right, as Shafiq and the company are not a separate legal entity when the court lifts the corporate veil.